Starting a little early today, but hey. We'll see who's out there and ready to go. Whoops. I hit the wrong button there, and there we are.
You look kind of glary on my computer.
I do? I guess I am a little bit.
Well, it's actually this side is glaring.
Now I have to get my pop-up out. I need to pop it out before I move anything.
Yes, now you're definitely less blurry.
All right, thank you very much, sweetie. I appreciate that. Now I have my thing popped out, so I can control it better. Hey, guys. Oh, looks like everybody figured out we were here a few minutes early, so awesome. Come and go. Go up, go down. They're going like, what? Who is this? I don't know who this is. Aquarian says, hello, happy Sunday. Hi, Aquarian. Thank you for joining us. I like the little star you've got there. That's awesome. Much better week. Yay. Brenda says, hello there. Hi, Brenda. We started a few minutes early, but you all figured it out. Bep says, aloha. Must be in Hawaii.
Works anyway.
And it's got all those nice Irish four-leaf clovers. Yep, Kororoti. Aaron says, hello. Hi, Aaron. It's great. Everybody's just coming in all at once. I like it. It is a good thing. I had one of those annoying dreams last night, so I'm assuming it's not happening. Jonathan says, hello. Hi, Jonathan. Nice to see everybody. I'm glad I don't need to do all the typing. Audrey says, hi, Siofra. How are y'all? We're pretty good this week. So it's been a much calmer week, and I started a project yesterday, I guess. I decided we needed to put something up to try and dissuade Ian's sister from coming onto our property. And we also decided it was time to retire the poppet. Aquarian says, do you have any plans for the equinox? I'm not sure if or what to do. It's on Thursday, but I don't have anything officially planned at the moment. And I'm working on these magical projects, I guess, is what I'm doing, because it seems like the right time. And we've had the question before, it's like, what do you do when you're done with a poppet? So when we decided that we had to be done with Ian's sister's poppet, I decided to unsew it. And then we're taking the insides, the material, like, you know, the all the organic material that's inside there, and Ian has charged that up, and then we're going to spread that in the garden and let it like go back to the earth, kind of thing. So it seems like the right thing to do. Since I've never had to undo one before, or I've never actually undone one before, I wasn't sure what I would do. So Kendra says, hey there, Siofra and Ian. Vanessa says, hello. Hi, Kendra. Hi, Vanessa V. Nice to see you guys. So the project I'm working on, it just sort of came to me, and I decided I'm going to make one of those hands with the eye in the middle, right? With the designs, there's a lot of different kinds of designs on there, but I figure it makes a good stop. So Ruth says, hi all, 'tis birthday today. Well, happy birthday, Ruth. So this is what I've got going here. So this, I found a piece of wood. This is half of the size of the piece of wood at Goodwill for like $2. So I cut it in half, or had Ian cut it in half. And I'm going to put the palm on the front of the piece of wood. And then I think on the back, I'm going to actually put a pentagram on it. And I'm making two of them, one for the gate to go on the outside of the gate and one to go on the outside of our front door. So I think it might tag into her potential superstitions that she has and anxieties about, what we might be doing or something. And red is good stop, and a hand is a good stop. It's like a good barrier kind of thing. So, yeah.
Jolly is good.
I am jolly. Am I jolly? Okay. I'm definitely happy. So, so Ruth said thank you, and Vep says Siofra is jolly today, and Quarian says, will you use paint? I love the project idea. It's very fitting. And yes, that's paint. I am going to use Ian's hand as our form, and since that makes perfect sense because it's his half sister in any event, and then I'm going to paint the hand in black outline and the eye, and then I haven't decided what designs I might put on the palm. I've been looking around just to see exactly what is out there and if I want to like put something that I'm familiar with or just design it and make it look pretty. I figure we'll freak out our post office, our postman.
Well, you should pick symbols that have been used anyway, so, and just get her superstition to stay away from us, whatever
Yeah.
we can use.
I'm sure it'll come to me when I get to that point. Yes.
I am the hand.
You are the hand. I told the guy at Goodwill what I was doing. He says, "You going to put some Illuminati symbols on there?" I said, "I don't think she knows those, so probably not." But I thought that was pretty good. So Jonathan says, "Happy birthday, Ruth," and Eric says, "Hi, hi, Eric," also known as Bloody Brains. Getting ready for Halloween. Yeah. So that's what we've been up to, and I also found a nice meme that I liked about what you are and what you can control and what you can't control. And I really liked the way they put it. And so I drew that out, and I'm having my granddaughter color that in. So she has been given a project to do that. And I told her if she wanted to see what colors they used and everything, then, she could look at my my post where I had it. So we'll see what she comes up with. So Moonfire Dawn says hello, hi, and Violet says hello, hi, Violet.
Hello.
Violet Star, how you all doing? Oh, and Eric says, yep, got my pumpkins on the doorstep, getting ready for Halloween. Yep. Samhain is coming, at least for us here in the Northern Hemisphere. And I know Jonathan being in South Africa, the equinox is the same as it sort of, but then everything after that changes, so yeah. He's going to get more light, and we're going to get less. Be one of those people that runs and follows the sun and never stays in one place. I don't know. But anywho. So that's what we've been up to. And I'm sure those of you who've watched my latest video, I was answering one of you guys in a serious question about things. So that's why I did that. So I have my paper here in case we have more ideas for videos to do that you all come up with, and I can take notes. I'm ready for that. What is that symbol, Ian?
It's an eye.
Oh, that's an eye. Okay.
It's
I
inside
see.
a speech bubble.
I see. Okay. It took me a minute. I was like,
I'm looking at you.
okay. You are looking at me.
Sorry.
Nope, that's fine. We do have a quirky sense of humor. So, I did put up the two videos that I've done previously on fall equinox and Mabon and stuff like that, and I might make a peace candle for the one who asked me the question, because that's one of the things I like to do. I'm going to have to get to the store and get blue candles because I think we're out of blue candles, and at least do that to have for the coming dark times as they arise and so forth. So Vanessa V says lovely projects. Joyce C says hello. There is usually an eye in the ham Ham's hand? Yes. There is an eye, and I will have an eye in it. That's the idea. Brenda says ideas for contents of protection bottle. Well, I have a whole thing on the witch's bottle. There's a video on that, and I like to use pins and needles, and some people use nails, but I do a small jar, so nails seem to be a little bit too big for that.
Big jar with a cannon in it.
A large jar, Ian says, like a big jar.
With
like
a cannon in it.
a cannon, yes. No, I don't
No?
think that works in our yard. And it's like, we'd probably get in trouble for
Probably
that.
work once.
Yeah, maybe. But I use the Four Thieves vinegar instead of the wine for inside the bottle because I like the extra oomph that that gives. And then I use rosemary and sage from my garden for the plant material that I put in there. And I might add some more stuff. We have, I think I'm going to harvest some juniper from the tree by my office, and the berries are ripe, ready to pick right now, and get some wildcrafted stuff that way. Angela says, hi Siofra and chat, and hi Violet. Blessings everyone. Hi Angela. Aquarian says, I was having bad anxiety in bed last night, and flying fish swam around my room to comfort me, transformed into other beautiful sea creatures, and I feel so much better. Just wanted to share. Well, that's awesome. I love flying fish. We got to see them when we were in Hawaii once. They are so awesome.
They are cool.
They are
See in
cool.
person,
It's just
yeah.
like I've like seen videos of them, but to see them in person was just like, well, that sounds like a great, spirit trying to assist with your feelings. So good and perfect. I had the fairies hanging around me last night, and they were on both sides of the bed instead of just one. A lot of times, if I'm facing the outside wall, that's where I can feel and smell them. And often when I turn over and face the inside wall, I don't smell them anymore. I can still sense them, but last night they were all around the room. They were everywhere. So they were just flittering around, which was really cool. I liked it. Darling Darlene says hello. Hi.
Hello.
Vanessa V says, I remember your video on your staff and its story, but I was wondering if you could explain more on how to use them and how do you know if you need or want a staff? Good question. Since the universe gave me my staff, I decided that meant I needed one because, and same with Ian, both of us were given our staff, and to me, it's sort of like a magical resume. It houses my authority. It tells spirits who I am, what I've been through, because the things that are on it and how it's transformed over the year represent my different experiences in the magical realm. And I can use it just as an introduction, and I can use it, of course, to draw a circle, create sacred space for protection if I'm walking with it. Any other ideas?
Oh, well. That's basically it. The way we're using them as a symbol of authority, not given to us by humans, but given to us by the universe through the means that the staffs came to us. So, yeah, anything that makes me think of nature or universe or has that association for me, I might put on the staff. It has a medicine pouch, things like that.
Yeah, and the things in the video, I talk about the different items that are on the staff and what they represent specifically to me. I was actually thinking about the most recent addition, which was the bear claw that came from the prison where I volunteered for like 7.5 years. One of the inmates came across it when they were out in the woods near the prison. I think they were doing fire training or something. And he gave it to me because he was in my circle. And so that actually meant quite a bit. So for me, the things that go on my staff are things that have very personal connections, like the 3 marbles that I was given when I did the healing, the psychic surgery or whatever for that woman in Texas. And that represented a lot of things that happened to me when I was in Texas. And so, And I think it's maybe in its last permutation. I haven't gotten any hints from my staff that it wants me to add anything or change anything at this point. So, and they do that, or at least they do that to me.
Well, as a person grows, it's reasonable to expect their staff will grow with them if it's at all suitable for them.
Right. Yeah, for a long time it had no decorations at all. It was interesting. So Kendra says, had insomnia last night, had to sleep with my selenite crystal ball. I usually only sleep with it during my menstrual cycle. Well, selenite's a wonderful thing. I like to have selenite around me. I have several pieces on my nightstand. So if I need one, I can just grab it. I also find it's really good for reducing inflammation. So I use it in my office. I have a piece in my office for my clients, and you can like take it and stroke it down an area that's bothering you and stroke it out of your body, and it'll like take the inflammation away. Works really well for that, actually. Rep says, just making a fig tree wand. Any insights on fig tree from your experience? I'm working on one too. So I have a piece of fig that is currently sitting on my pile of pieces of woods that I'm working wands into. So I don't know. I think figs are, they have a lot of history about them, and certainly they represent like the fruit that they have is like good fresh, good dried. I mean, they're a nutritional tree when it comes to that. But I haven't delved too much into all of the mythology around the fig tree.
Yeah, I know nothing about it myself, really.
So I'm still like exploring it, and I think that's the wonder of making wands is as they get more wood. Apparently, I'm going to come into a bunch of laurel. One of my clients is cutting her laurel, and it's going to give me her laurel. Is right around the right time too, because new moon is pretty much upon us as well. It's going to be really close to the equinox this year. So, yeah, it's a softwood, I think. Angela says laurel is associated with Apollo. Yes, it is. So solar and sun and
All that stuff.
fire and protection and willpower and all those kinds of things. Laurel would probably make a good willpower wand, I would think. Joy C said, I did watch your video on thought forms and larva, but can you please just give a definition of larva? Okay, so a larva is a form that is like on the mental plane, or is it the mental plane or the astral plane? I guess it's the astral plane is where larva form.
Well,
because it's got a lot of feelings associated with it.
yeah, well, you get both. I think Barton
Yeah.
calls the ones that are just in the mental plane schematic in the newer, only in the newer edition of his book. He doesn't have that in the older edition.
But basically, it's like something that's created by an obsession, whether it's a physical addiction or an emotional obsession, and it like forms an attachment to the person who's created it, and then feeds off of that particular obsession, whatever it happens to be, and that's what keeps them alive, and that is also one of the reasons why it's
Yeah.
difficult to break bad habits.
But that is also the way to kill them is to deny the obsession or obsessional emotions or whatever, that
right,
causes it to get built.
either the substance or the
But yeah,
activity.
those are definitely what cause a lot of habits to be way harder to break than a person would think they ought to be, is because these thought forms these larvae have a certain, they're not really alive, but they have a certain self-preservation instinct regardless.
Yep, sort of like a parasite.
Yep, pretty much.
It's pretty much what I would consider to be a parasite, a parasitic form of a thing.
Yeah,
And you can sometimes help yourself when you're trying to break an addiction by magically cutting off the larva, like like with a knife, doing a cutting ceremony or whatever, and that'll give you a bit of a break while you're going through the process
yeah,
of trying to get off of it.
that kind of happens automatically to people. Larva form and the best way is to starve them out. But it's kind of a natural process. The more you get into the magical stuff and control of yourself, the less you'll have them form, the less they'll eat your energy, so to speak, which is more or less what they do.
Yeah. So Sophia says, hello everyone. Am I late? No, we were a little early, but you're not late. We're only 20 minutes into our hour and a half, so welcome. Vanessa V said, thank you. Angela says, welcome. Vanessa V says, any advice on how to achieve self-discipline? I feel like I have become lazy lately and I'm assuming there's more to come from that. Nothing she wants to do gets done. We'll see.
Well,
We'll talk to Joyce says thank you, and Angela says every time you say larva, whoops, somebody's putting up a thing. My brain imagines astral maggots. Blick. Yeah, that's pretty blicky. So Vanessa continues, nothing I try helps me get back on track and being consistent. I feel very dispersed. Well, it could just be that you're going through a stage of that, and it can be okay, and you can focus on other things like, I don't know, taking care of yourself, doing some self-care kind of activity,
yeah,
not pushing yourself too hard, because you can create this sort of like a pressure cooker type of thing where the more you're upset with yourself for not accomplishing something, the less energy you have to accomplish something.
I would recommend trying to see that you're balanced with the earth and air. The air gives you the awareness of things so you can have that focus. Then the earth gives you the strength to hold it, to hold that focus and do what you want without being distracted or driven away, because the earth has that strength within it. So you balance yourself out in the air and the earth, and I think that'll help. And you can do that through visualizations or methods like that. Which
Or sitting outside or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is to not be too hard on yourself, because we all go through, we have our own personal weather and seasons. So sometimes you're in the spring where you're just full of all kinds of thought processes, ideas, and inspiration. And sometimes you're in the fall when you're sort of slowing down with things and need to integrate stuff. So I think that, there is part of that whole process is accepting where you're at and then finding ways to allow yourself to be in it so then you can move through it.
Yeah, at the very least, don't feel like you become lazy or anything like that, because that's just negative thought process that will not help you. So don't judge yourself that way. Be what you are and where you are and who you are, and make promises that you're not going to do this again or that again, but don't judge yourself. And as you advance, you'll find that you judge your younger self, speaking for myself. So anyway, don't want to get too far off.
I think that's perfect. Because yes, that's what it's all about. I mean, I've seen posts where witches are worried that they've lost their connection to magic, to the earth, and they're not feeling it. And it's not that it's gone, it's just that we're in a slightly different state at the time. And all of them have their validities. Like, that's why there's different elements. Like, each one has got a somewhat different feel to it for a reason, and trying to find that balance in everything that we do, which is why I did that video last week on balance. It's like, it's about balance. You're not always going to be on and always doing magical projects and always doing ritual or spellcraft or whatever. You also have to make a living. You have to interact with family and friends. You have crises that come up around you, whether you have anything to do with them or not, like we have here. And then you have to figure out how you're going to navigate through that and wait out until you're on the other side when energy changes, because that's the thing we can always count on. Everything changes. Nothing ever stays the same. There's just no way for it to be just one thing and just stay that way. Life is transformation and also chaos at times. Our trick is to figure out how to roll with the punches.
I kind of like to think of it as orderly chaos because everything follows some rules down at the bottom of it. All of nature, all of life, it all follows some rules that end up to get these weird things to happen in your life.
Yep.
It's like orderly chaos or something.
Something like that.
Ordered chaos.
Ordered chaos. We'll go with that. Sounds good.
Slightly ordered chaos. I don't know.
Slightly. Yeah. Well, certainly creation is chaotic in a lot of aspects. It's like the transformational nature of reality is things are changing from one state to another all the time. So they're always transitioning through one, from one state to another state and then sometimes back again. And and in life it's the same thing. It's like you might learn the same lesson over and over again, but each time you learn it, you're in a different spot, on your own personal spiral. So it has less intensity or less impact or whatever, and you recognize it for what it is and then go on to the next thing.
Next spiral your way
Spiraling up.
I think that's a very good analogy for that.
And you gotta, the more you experience that kind of thing, the more aware you can become of the downward spiral when it begins. So if you start having negative self-talk and depression and so forth, and you can notice that when it first begins, then you can do something then to change the spiral and go back in an upward direction instead of continuing on down until you hit the bottom, and then you can go back up. It's tricky. I can't always do it, but I have succeeded on a number of occasions where I go like, okay, I recognize this pattern, and no, I don't think I want to go through that one again, so let's change it. The little spider web says CBT. Is that a different type of? Aquarian says objective self-awareness. Yes, that's a good word or phrase for it.
Descriptive word, yeah.
Yep, I like it. A little spider web says cognitive behavioral therapy. Ah, okay. Yeah, I've heard some people that have gone through that and have been very helped a lot by it. And certainly creating new ways of thinking and habits and trying to undo the grooves that we've built up over a lifetime when we're trying to become a different person and we want to change things on a core level. Definitely takes some definite work there.
Yes, it does.
So Vanessa V says, oh, it is so hard not to judge myself. I know we are our own worst enemy when it comes to that. We can never be good enough. We can never do it right enough. We are never fast enough. We are never smart enough. We're terrible at that. It's a hard thing.
Yeah, well, I try to keep the attitude that, like, okay, I'll do it better next time, and then not worry about it. Just do it better next time, and not make a thing. You don't want it to become a thing that attracts all your thinking and energy, because then you're digging yourself a hole. You just need to accept it, then let it go, and decide you'll do things differently if you want to do them differently. Or to just let it go because it's insignificant and it doesn't matter.
Learning it's okay not to be perfect. That was really hard for me.
Yep.
So the little spider web says that's what you were saying. Keep aware of what you say to yourself.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It's important. But then if you're mean to yourself, don't be mean to yourself for being mean to yourself. Because that's not good either. So yeah, we have to keep a sense of humor is the best thing to have when it comes. And Little Spiderweb says yes, laugh out loud. Yep. It's tricky. It's just a tricky thing. That's all there is to it. But that's life.
That's true.
An experiential, I don't know what. Full of experiential whatevers. Darlene 68 says thumbs up. Yes. Yeah, we need to be kind to each other. It's like we're all trying our best. And the thing is that you can always see that other people are trying really hard, and you're willing to give them the credit and, give them space to figure it out and stuff. But when it comes to ourselves, not so much. That's because we're in our own heads and we know all those little nitty gritty things that go on in there. And yeah.
So the answer is go out of your mind.
Yep, that's it. Woo!
But I actually mean that, you know.
Yes.
Okay.
Not be in your mind, be out of your mind.
Yep.
That's called overview.
Yep.
Yeah. Overview definitely helps. When we think things are too important, that's when we get into trouble. So, yeah. Angela says, get out of your own head and be in your heart. Yeah, the heart is definitely a much better leader when it comes to what's a good thing to do. Your heart settles down and thinks on a more even plane. Sophia says, is every magic or spell. Vanessa V says, thank you. I'm waiting for Sophia to say more about is every magic or spell require a circle? No, does not. I mean, depending on what you're doing, you might want to have a circle anyway, but I mean, you can do magic on the fly and in the moment when you're in traffic. It doesn't necessarily require it.
Remember two things about a circle. It can either be a container, like a container for energy, or it can be a protection. But it's not necessarily both. It can be that too. I keep that in mind because a lot of people focus on it protection, the protection circle, and they forget that it can be a container of energy at the same time to build up an energy within the circle that you
Right.
can then send out.
And that's what we tend to use it for. I mean, protection is secondary, but it's the container aspect of it. So if you're doing something that needs a lot of oomph, use a circle because then you can build up energy in the circle to use for your spell work or your magic. And it'll help keep you focused in that creating a sacred space. And I think of it if you're working with spirit beings and stuff like that, circles are helpful because it's sort of like making an airlock between realities. So what you're doing is you're creating a magical space that is closer to um, their magical space, and then it's easier for them to actually get close and communicate with you. It's like, yeah. So you sort of create an environment that's conducive to both humans and to spirits, and that creates that environment there in which you can work. So it really depends on what you need. Vanessa V says, how do you get out of your own head? A lot of my problem is that I have the ideas in my mind, but it's like there, a wall that blocks me from executing them. Break it down into smaller steps and try not to do the entire thing at once.
Yeah, that's definitely a big one for me. If I think about a task and I think about the whole task, sometimes I feel overwhelmed and don't do it. But if I take one little chunk at a time, then I can usually do pretty good with things. Don't know quite thoroughly how to do it, but I do one little chunk at a time and figure out each part as it goes along.
Well, yeah, and the thing is that we don't realize all the things that we're putting into something and how much of an impact that'll have until like later down the road. I had like I would bring my beading project in to the prison from time to time and show it to the inmates and say this is an example of one or two beads at a time that you're just putting on a fabric and you're creating a picture, but it takes a long time before you see the whole picture. But by the time it comes into view, you have put all this energy into it and maybe not even noticed how much of a picture that's coming out. And so it's the small steps that lead you there that are actually more important than the goal. And people get too goal oriented. You have the idea in your head that this is what you want to do. And if you're trying just to get there, then you miss all the processes that get you there in the first place. And then you're blocking yourself from being able to accomplish it because you're too goal oriented. So
Oh
like,
yeah, so it gives you kind of like a tunnel vision.
yeah,
If you get too focused on that.
exactly. And then when inspiration comes and the universe is trying to give you like other ways of doing what it is you're trying to do, you miss them because you're too focused on this laser focused on this one thing. And then everything else sort of falls away. And there's a time and place for that, but usually
Yeah,
not
it's
when
not all the time.
right.
You need to have not in this universe. you need to be able to stop doing and start being for a while.
So
And get that opposite rest, just exist. Everything's okay for the moment. I just exist right now. The kids are not screaming in the background like they really are, and whatever.
So Angela says, unblocking meditations, I like to use those and then try again. I imagine walls and break them down with different colored lights and reopen blocked paths.
Sounds like a nice visualization.
Violet says, I like that, Angela. Yes, it's a good visualization. Sophia says, I know I'm a witch, but I never practice. I'm full-time mom and housewife, and I don't find any time for nothing. Help. Okay. Well, be a kitchen witch if you're a full-time mom and housewife. Come up with creative crafts to do with your kids to help them get in touch with their own magic and so forth.
Yeah, and try and become aware of the idea and think of the little things you can do. Just kind of be aware of it and think of it, and you'll start finding little things you can put on make a little altar and put stuff on it. Just, it doesn't have to be a big deal where people notice or anything
Right,
like that.
take the kids out to the park and talk about the different plants and teach them about herbs or whatever, or
Yeah.
introduce them to trees, which gets you back in touch with that yourself. You may not have the time to do like the glitzy spell work and costuming and running around naked in the moonlight, but there's still magic in everything. And if you have your focus on doing things in a magical sense, being aware of them and being present with them, then you're going to connect to things, connect to your yard, your neighborhood, the people around you. If you're an empath, things will fall in front of your path, and that you might be able to help somebody with or what have you. And all of that is magic. It's not just one thing, not just tarot cards or working with crystals or making magical objects or what have you. Those are just things that you can do along the way. But magic is
more a internal state or a state of mind of being aware and cooperating with that.
So Angela says, practice in your mind. Violet says, kitchen witch, I love it. Angela says, for a while before I had altars, I used inner temples in my mind. Still use it often when I meditate.
Yeah, that's a fine technique.
And that's what I did with the guys up at the prison, since they couldn't have tools. Their wand was a pencil. Although we did get permission to make wands, then they could only use them when I was there. So, not really the same thing. But doing the mental practice was definitely preparing for when they weren't in a place where they could actually do stuff. So it helps. Violet says every cup of coffee has a magic starry spiral that goes into your soul as you drink it.
Well, I like that one. We drink lots of coffee, so
All
well,
right.
not lots, but we drink it every
We drink a
morning
couple of
and
cups
noon
a day.
at least. Yeah.
And Vanessa says thank you and thanks Angela as well. Darling Darlene says cool. Sophia says thank you a lot. You're welcome. I mean, being a witch is about relationships with the universe, in my opinion. It's an awareness of our place in the universe and the energy that surrounds us and our energy and how it impacts the world around us.
I like that as a description. It's pretty good. Pretty good one.
Yeah. So Aquarian says magic is everywhere. When I cook, I work with herbs from my garden and am mentally present and enhancing with my ingredients. Magic is mindfulness and being present and aware of the ocean of energy, engaging. Angela says, no problem. I hope it helps you. A witch is something you always are, even you are, whether you practice or not, even before you know you are. Whether you practice or not, you can't stop being what you are. I know, and people ask me, like, when do you do magic or witchcraft or whatever? I'm like, what? I don't understand the question. I'm always magic and I'm always a witch. So everything I do is magic one way or another. So yeah. Bep says, love Ian's point on being. Everything lines up from being. Should be addressed more in our little gatherings here, in my humble opinion. Yes.
Thank you.
And I agree. Yeah, we get really caught up in definitions and all sorts of things. And if you're just being in yourself, it sort of changes the focus. Because words are just what they are, words.
Yeah, it takes you out of that. A lot of the urgency people feel and stuff is really their own their own creation, their own anxiety that is just so habitual. Speaking for myself, it takes me a lot of work to get rid of that stuff. Still working on it.
Well, Ian has a saying that he said quite some time ago that I've been using a lot in the last few months, I think, with all the stuff going on. You cannot make good decisions based on bad information. And I think that that's a really important thing to remember as well, because if you don't have accurate or correct information, there's no way you can make a good decision. And, it's like we did not know my granddaughter was an alcoholic and was drinking the entire time when we first met her. So there was no way we could figure out how to help her because we didn't have a piece of information that was kind of vital to understanding what was going on with her, and she wasn't forthcoming at the time. So,
Yep.
Truthfulness with the self as well as with others helps us to make better decisions.
Well, yeah, absolutely truthfulness with yourself. I mean, that's got to be, for me, that's a, you know.
Well, when you're not truthful with someone else, like, you need help, you want help, but you don't want to tell them that you need help and you want help. You want them to figure it out for themselves, and you're sort of hinting at it and whatever, and then they don't, and then you're mad at them for not figuring it out. And then, like, what kind of a chance did they have? Because you never opened your mouth and said anything about it. So, yeah. But anyway.
Oh, the whole mire of various relationships.
Oh, yes. We have a lot of those.
All sorts.
And acknowledging that the people that you're close to usually have their best intentions in mind, even if they're making a mistake in what they think is going on or what have you. It's like if you start off with that, they're trying their best, they're trying to help, they just don't know what I need. Maybe it's a good idea to tell them or something. My son was talking about that with his wife. Yeah, always starting from that when they have confusion or what seems like a breakdown in communication, and starting from the foundation that they love each other and they want the best for each other, and so whatever this is, it's coming from that place, and then figure it out from there. I'm very proud of him. He's a good guy. I have 2 very good children. So, yeah. But yeah, it's interesting. I think the equinox brings out the idea of balance a lot, because that's what it is, light and dark balance.
Yeah.
From the world itself. And whether you're in the south or the north, we're all going through an equinox together, and so everything is temporarily in balance before it shifts and starts to change again. Kind of interesting. Aquarian says that's really sweet and a great way to handle miscommunications. Of course, it helps if both people are on the same page. Some people are not, but hey, accepting reality, that's important too. So yeah, but it's all about balance, figuring that balance out, and how to get out of our own way.
Yeah, that's a whole other issue.
Yep, getting in our own way is pretty much our go-to move.
Well, I found something interesting during my painting stuff. And that is, some things I couldn't paint well until I had gotten rid of certain psychic disharmonies within myself. Those would always come out in my painting in some way that wasn't obvious, but they would make me screw up a line here or a circle there. I couldn't make a round circle. And I realized part of me, every time I come up to that, I had this thing come up from the background would come in there, and then on some level, I guess I felt unworthy of being able to do it properly because of this thing or that thing I'd done in the past. So getting yourself clear will also improve your abilities, because you'll get out of your own way.
True.
As much as you can, and you might be surprised how much you're accidentally hindering yourself.
That's very true. That's called shooting yourself in the foot. Without knowing it.
There was a Jacksonville officer that did that one day, by the way.
Oh, he actually shot himself in the foot?
Yep.
I'm sure he was very embarrassed by that.
You know what he was doing? He was trying to do the quick draw for a movie. They have a movie in Jacksonville, and he was wanted to audition for a part to do a quick draw in the movie.
And he used a gun with had real bullets in
And
it.
shot himself in the foot. Yes. Sorry.
That
that happened many years ago, but
that was a bad idea.
40 years ago or something. Long
Definitely
time
a
ago,
bad
anyway.
idea. Angela says, "Oh my." Oh look, I have a piece of citrine here. Apparently, it's sitting out here.
Oh my.
Yeah, the most famous oh my in the world. Angela says it's almost as bad as the turkey who shot the hunter. True story. There are some pretty bad things like that out there. Florian says, like Taoism, engaging in the flow state and getting out of your own way.
Pretty much exactly like Taoism, yeah.
So Bep says, well, Hemingway shot himself in the head by accident. Better foot than head.
That's a good point, you know.
Yeah, I'm serious. Yeah.
Everything's relative, you know. You think shoot yourself in the foot and you think, wow, what bad luck, but maybe you would have shot yourself in the head otherwise. So
Maybe so. Maybe
you know,
it turned out to be good chance.
Maybe it actually is
like,
good luck for some weird reason. You
maybe
never know.
so. Sometimes you don't know these things until way past the time that they've happened.
Yep.
Heather says, I'm so grateful I finally caught alive. Well, I'm so grateful that you're here. This is awesome. Thank you for joining in. Angela says, this actually happened. It was on the news. When I was a kid, a man got 3 pins in his leg because the turkey shot him with his own gun.
I believe they used to have these things you could look up. They gave the Darwin Awards to people who did weird things like that or killed themselves. I think the Darwin Awards was people who got killed in strange ways.
Stupid.
They killed themselves in stupid ways, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the guy that decided to take the metal off the bottom of a high tension power line out in the middle of the woods because he figured, he was there by himself and no one would catch him. And he started at the bottom, worked his way up. And apparently, I don't know what he was thinking, that they have extra metal in those things that they don't need to keep them up, but the whole thing fell on top of him, so.
Yeah, stealing the metal for salvage. That's a good way to...
Yep. That was not good. But then there's those things that, like, seem like a bad thing at the time and then turn out to be a good thing. That happened in my family a lot. So Angela says, how it happened was he shot the turkey, thought it was dead. It wasn't. He tossed it in the back seat with his gun. The turkey was still alive but mortally injured, tried to get up and pulled the trigger with his foot as the guy was walking past to get into the car and shot him in the leg through the closed car door. Weird circumstances.
Sounds like one of those stories, yep.
But like
They
the
happen.
thing, yeah, but the thing that's like seems like a bad thing at the time but turns out to be good happened in my family a lot. Like my brother ate poisonous mothballs in when we were kids. I was there. I remember that. And he swallowed a whole bunch of them whole, and then he bit into one. And we're talking the methane mothballs. They're deadly. You should be dead. But he didn't die. And the reason he didn't die was because a few years before, he had eaten a bunch of Easy Off oven cleaner and like damaged his throat, his esophagus, and his stomach with the lye that he ate. And the mothballs didn't actually dissolve when they pumped his stomach out.
Down scar tissue.
Exactly. And so the Easy Off oven cleaner incident saved his life when he ate the mothballs. But you wouldn't think at the time that it was a good thing that you ate lye when you were a toddler. And so that's the thing, is sometimes we don't know how that's going to actually turn out until after it's over. And so who knows? You never know. Anyway, Heather Grace says, sorry to go off subject. What is both y'all's favorite form of divination?
I'd say scrying myself.
Yeah,
I don't really do divination for like, I tried different things, including the I Ching and Tarot and that, and scrying would have to be it. Try to find out and see on the mental planes, that type of thing with a scrying mirror usually.
And I think I do a lot of that in my dreams. So if something's coming, it shows up in my dreams first and lets me know. So I think I always have that kind of like some part of me is looking out for anything that might be coming that could be harmful, but I don't
Yeah.
tend to just sit and scry
Yeah,
in
no,
particular.
I tried various forms and was never attracted to any of them really.
So Angela says, "Why was your brother eating such weird stuff? Because he was one of those kids. He ate everything. He ate or drank anything he came across. So shampoo and soap and whatever. And apparently, my mother thought he was locked in his room, and he was an escape artist. And she was cleaning out the oven, and then she heard a sound, and she looked up, and he had actually jammed the door open to his room and snuck out, and was sitting there on the kitchen floor with the Easy Off oven cleaner all over his face and on his hand because he had gotten a hold of it. It's like it's a horrible way to clean an oven, but that's how they used to do it. So just one of those weird things. So Heather says, "Cool, thanks. Yes, anything magical is fine." Vanessa V says, "What is citrine for?" Well, citrine is sort of good for energy, mental clarity. Uh, Finding real citrine is difficult. This is a genuine piece of citrine. Most citrine out there is a heated amethyst that turns yellow under heat, and they call that citrine as well. And usually you can tell by the depth of the color. If it's too orange, it's probably heated amethyst.
Ah, good to know.
And theoretically, if you put amethyst out in the sun long enough, it would turn into citrine. But I don't know anyone who's ever actually succeeded at that. So it might be just one of those, stories that are out there. So Vanessa V's, oh, Angela says, "Wow, glad he was okay." Yeah, too bad, actually. He turned out to be a misogynistic dick. So, but hey, I was glad he wasn't dead when I was a kid. And Vanessa V said there was a guy who dismantled a medical equipment and sold the metal without knowing they had radioactive material. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I could see that happening pretty easily. Yeah.
Especially since not everyone runs around with a Geiger counter.
Yeah.
And they don't think about it. Heather says, "I just cleaned my oven yesterday." How funny. Well, see, that's me. Synchronicity Central. These pop out of my mouth. I have no clue why. Angela says, "I love tarot and oracle cards personally, and I like staring at my candle flames. Sometimes I see shapes in the wicks and the flames, and the popping sounds make words." Cool.
Yeah, they kind of go that direction with a lot of stuff in some of the fire worship practices of the Hindus.
I really like seeing the green in the fire, in the flames, in an actual fire. And I know a number of people who also see the fire turn green. And then I know a bunch of people who think that I'm talking about putting copper or something like that in the flames to make it turn green. It's like, no, it's actually the other color of fire. And I think it's the mental color of fire is what I'm seeing. And once I start seeing it, it's just everywhere. And it's pretty cool. So Aquarian says, "My sister, 21, is currently very into crystals, but more on a surface level. She made me a beautiful necklace, but the citrine is heated amethyst. I hang it above my altar, but I don't know what to do with it. Should I treat it as an amethyst or citrine or neither and use it as a connection to my sister? Any ideas are appreciated." Well, I mean, I did not know for a long time that most citrine was amethyst heated. So I think that the heating of the amethyst changes the nature of the stone, changes the vibration along with the color. So I don't see any reason not to treat it as actually citrine, personally. And certainly would make a good connection with your sister.
Now I'm going to have to test that.
Oh, and see?
Take a little piece of one of those amethyst
Oh.
chips off the necklace and see if it can make it turn yellow by heating it.
Oh, I wonder how much heat it takes and what kind of heat and all that other stuff.
Well, I got a
You
torch.
little alchemist, you.
If that torch won't do it, then
Maybe it's all fake news. I don't know. It could be. I like to be able to verify things too.
well, I do.
Yeah, because people make proclamations about stuff all the time based on wrong information. So, and I'm fine if I'm turned out to be wrong about something. It's okay to tell me because I'm not perfect.
I don't know if anybody out there remembers the Anarchist Cookbook from years ago, but I made tests of several of the things in there just to verify that indeed they don't work. Like the idea of putting a ping pong. I don't know if this was in the cookbook or not, but the idea of putting a ping pong ball full of lye in somebody's gas tank to blow up their car. But I couldn't make any reaction with any way I tried that with gasoline and lye and stuff. And maybe if there was a lot of water in the gas, I guess maybe, I don't know. But I couldn't make it work.
But that's okay, because we're not here to
Yeah.
teach people
Well,
how to
yeah.
blow up people's cars.
Well, yeah. Well, I see these things though, and I want to know if it's true or not.
Well, Mythbusters, that's why it was one of our
Yes.
favorite
Yeah.
shows. Because they tested that stuff, and some of it was true, and a lot of it was not.
Yeah.
And some of it was very surprisingly true, like the guy who could catch an arrow with his hand, and they
Oh,
couldn't
right.
figure out how to make that happen at all, and then they got someone who could do it, and then bam, he did it, and they're like, right in front of their faces. So,
Yeah,
So-
sometimes duplicating something isn't as easy, especially when you get somebody like that
special
who's
skill.
very practiced. Yeah,
Yeah.
can't just duplicate a special skill that easily
Right.
necessarily.
So Vanessa V says, "Oh, interesting. I did a meditation to connect with the fairies on my birthday, and when I threw a paper in the bonfire, the fire turned green." Cool. I think that, like, I know that in the Indian Tatwas, the opposite of red is green, and you use the color green to go into the fire kingdom when it turns from the red to the green, and that's its entry. And when I did my astral temple and I was checking in on it, I had a green phoenix in the south in my astral temple. And I realized the reason it was green was because that was the opposite color of fire, so that then I could walk through it.
Yeah,
And on some level, I wonder if I was in the right state or frame of mind, if the fire was green, if that would mean that I could go into it or touch it or something without getting hurt. Although I've never tried that, and I don't think I will. But mentally, I could probably enter the fire through the green flames. It's
Yeah.
very mesmerizing.
that is a technique that she's talking about of using the tatwas, and you visualize it, or you look at it and stare at it until your brain starts to form and you get used to it, form a little bit of an after image. Then you look at a piece of white, and then you'll see the after image in the correct colors, and then you use that as a doorway to walk through for mental or astral travel.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting how that works.
I thought I'd just elaborate on that a little bit.
We do have a video on that, the Indian Tatwas, and show them and so forth and talk about that. So that was one of our earlier videos when we were just trying to get information out that wasn't available everywhere, or something you might not come across on a regular search sort of thing, since Google became evil. Someone was asking me about that the other day, and I said, yeah, their motto used to be, "At least we're not evil." I said, they can't say that anymore. Angela says, "Wow, sounds like when I was staring at my wall clock. It's a white clock with black outlining and letters." Yep, the brain will do that and switch them opposite each other and give you an after image that's the exact opposite of what you're looking at.
Works pretty well for the purpose.
I was staring absently and suddenly saw a ghostly black clock just above it that had white numbers. Yep. That's what it does. It's an interesting method of doing that kind of stuff. And sometimes that can help you see auras a little bit as well. And I have that after image effect a lot when I look at things, and I have to be careful because, like, look at a tree or something, and then I move my eyes, and then it's a different color tree, and it's moving around and so forth. But it's pretty cool. I like it. The way the human brain interacts with things is interesting. It's our spirit interface. Spirit
Pretty
body
much.
interface. It was like, yep, some work better than others. But hey. Moonfire Dawn says, "You two have helped me in so many ways through the hardest time. Thank you." Well, I'm glad.
You're very welcome. I'm just glad
You're
we can
welcome.
be of help to people at all.
Well,
It's
yeah,
a nice thing.
that's one of the reasons why we're doing this and trying not to be crazy. That's why I talk about being grounded a lot. So I watch TV shows and documentaries and I'm going like, oh my God, these people are crazy. I hope I'm not that kind of crazy. And I go like, rein it in, rein it in. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people that are on this path feel pretty much isolated and alone and misunderstood by the general population because we're kind of oddballs. We're sort of outliers. We tend not to fit in as well, most of us, with society as the average person who's just going about their day and doing their thing. So I think it's good that we have that opportunity to have a wider community and to be able to reach out to each other and ask, questions of, anybody actually who might understand what we're trying to get at. We do our best. Angela says, these lives brighten my weekend. I had a rough night last night. Seeing you guys today made my day brighter. Oh, good. Good. You're going to make us blush. Heather Grace says, I just want y'all to know I love this channel. Well, you guys are the kind of people we want to have on it. I mean, that's the reason we're doing it. It's like, not about how many people or whatever. It's about the people who really want to be here because, as we've said numerous times, this is not a path for everyone. Heather says, I've been trying to see auras. Okay, so are you doing it like in the evening, like in twilight time, in a dim room against a blank wall? To be the easiest way, I think, to start seeing auras. I'm seeing that green ball thing on a regular basis now. The one that, like, when I went into it, it turned into the forest and I was outside. I was doing that last night, actually. I forgot about that. It was there and I was like flying somewhere. But, yeah, seeing the colors is new for me. I think I had a mental block about it because of various things I've been through in my life. And of course, the fear of being insane is definitely one of my things with all the people and stuff I've seen and so forth. And what I went through when I had that really bad acid trip and was virtually insane for about a year. And so it's been a slow process to open myself back up to allowing that to happen in a safe environment and where I'm comfortable with it. And now I'm seeing colors like crazy. And it's really cool. I like it. So Angela says, I see them in mirrors when I look at myself or sometimes in pictures. Vanessa V says, your best is absolutely amazing. Well, thank you. Joy C says, I've often wondered if I'm like this because my family ignored me and I turned inward, or did they ignore me because I'm like this? It's a good question, and who knows? I mean, it could be a combination of both. Who knows for sure? If you have nowhere else to go and nothing else you can be, it's like being inside of yourself is your only refuge. And I wonder that too. Aquarian says, do you find that twilight is like a portal between worlds? It's very different from moonlight, which I also feel casts light on things otherwise unseen. Yes, twilight seems to be a time when fairies are most active or easiest to interact with for me. And it changes my vision. It's like as soon as the sun starts to go down, I start to have a shift in how my eyes work. Sometimes it's annoying, but it's real, it's there. And moonlight definitely has a different kind of effect. And when I lived up north, it was one of the more amazing things to be able to experience was in the wintertime when the air was so cold, the the water vapor in the air froze solid and was so light that it floated. And I'd be outside on a field of snow and the moon would be out and the snow would be sparkling, with all the moonlight reflecting off of it. And then the air would be alight with these tiny little sparks, like and they moved around you, and it would be like walking through a field of stars. It was just like absolutely incredible. And of course, if the northern lights came out, then that even was even better, because then we had all this color flying around everywhere. But yeah, I think all nature, no matter where you live, has got some kind of an amazing beauty that only happens in that one place, or makes it better somehow. Like, even though it's harsh, that was that for me. I just loved it. Ah, so Little Spider said, would the green ball maybe be connected to the big green head? No. No, not connected to the big green head. Apparently, this is a real thing. The green ball of light energy that I saw, and it flew at me, and then I found myself out of my body. And Ian says that Barton actually describes that, which I never read that particular passage, so I did not know that that is actually one of the methods or one of the ways that you can enter into outside while you're inside. But not the guy that tried to scare me. No, because this doesn't have any kind of face or anything. It's just a ball of energy. So Heather says, no, but now I will. Thanks for the advice. Aquarian says, oh my, that sounds fantastic. Well, that must have been so beautiful, a field of moonlit stars. Yes, I was describing what it was like to have the frozen ice floating through the air and stuff in the moonlight. Little Spider says, laugh out loud. I love that story with that green head. Yeah, it makes me giggle still when I think about it. I felt really bad because I laughed at it. I try not to be mean, but it was pretty funny. But like I said, humor. Humor is definitely a good defense against a lot of things. Sophia says, do you know how to help a pine tree that has a lot of resin going out? I think have a lot of parasites. I'm not an arborist, so I don't know what to say to help. I would say find an arborist, someone who knows trees. Because if it's an infestation of some type, it could be that it's doing that as a protective mechanism. I don't know.
And sometimes it's hard to find out yourself, so you need an expert. I found that out when I had some plants that were infected with broad mites. I did figure it out myself, but only because I happen to have a microscope, because they destroy the plants, but you cannot see them without a microscope. They're literally that small. And then you have to only look at the fresh new leaves, because by the time they've started eating on one, by the time you can see it, they've gone on to another leaf, because they have to have the fresh, most tender new ones. That's the way they kill your plants, and they're totally invisible doing it, and they'll infest everything. Sorry.
Hannah says, I think one of my favorite things is when I see, feel, dream something, and sometime later find something else that describes it or validates it. Yes, me too. Sometimes weird information just pops into my head, and then I look it up, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's a real thing. I don't know why I knew that now, but whatever. Heather says, I will most definitely try that tonight. Aquarian says, some bugs build a nest on pine trees that look like sappy clumps. You can easily knock them off. I'm not an expert, just have a similar issue. They make the tree super sappy. Vanessa V says, every time I have been out of my body, I also see an orb of green light. Now I want to see if I can get inside it as well. Sounds fun. Well, yeah. I mean, it was surprising, but it wasn't scary at all. I was just like, oh, there's that. And it's a very specific color green. It's kind of like a spring green kind of color. I don't know how exactly to describe it, but it's a light spring green, I think, would be the best descriptor I can think of. And just very round and little, and then fly into it, or it flies into me, and I find myself somewhere else. But hey, yeah. I was just wandering around last night, apparently, with the fairies. They were everywhere. And our bunny rabbit that my granddaughter has decided today I needed bunny licks, and jumped up on my chair and just started licking my arm. Lick, 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 lick. I don't know if it's because I was watching a movie that was very emotional. It was a surprising movie. I wasn't expecting it, and it was about death and transition and children and all this other stuff. And so I got into it pretty seriously at that point. So I wasn't sure if the bunny was picking up on that and wanted to comfort me, Or if it was just, hey, you got any crackers? It could have been that too. Just hasn't done that in a while. And then it just jumped up and down and around. It was fun. I like interacting with things that are outside of people.
Well, he's certainly becoming more human friendly too, the more he's out.
Yep, he liked me. He wanted me to actually pet him. He was pushing his head into my hand, which is, it was very assertive. Like, hey, there's a hand here.
It's very assertive for a bunny, yeah.
Yeah, it's very assertive for a bunny. So that was kind of cute too. So Heather Grace says, yes, humor has always been my coping mechanism. Well, if we take ourselves too seriously, we're always in trouble. And it's like, yes, it's not good to take ourselves too seriously. Okay, glad you're back. So now we're ready for more conversation.
Other questions or things relating to magic?
So much magic out there. That's why I like the natural world, because it's got so full of it. The Aurora Borealis was like the goddess's veil. That was how I thought of it. Dancing in the sky. Of course, right now we're getting a lot of auroras because of the increased solar activity. Angela says, anything amazing happened to you magically today? I'm sitting here talking to you. Working on a protective symbol and had a bunny lick me. So yeah, lots of magic. The little spiderweb says, what are your experiences with sylphs? Angela says, blush. Will, I've met a few. They're hard to, they're not hard, they're difficult to become aware of because they're so airy. I mean,
they're subtle.
Yeah. They're extremely subtle. There is a presence about them that sort of makes the inside of my head move in a certain way, so I know that they're there. But I haven't had a conversation with one. I've just encountered a few here and there. And Angela says, what's a sylph? It's an air spirit. Is what they call them. Like undines are water spirits, sylphs are air spirits.
Gnomes for earth.
Gnomes are earth spirits. Violet says, I got 2 books about the 13th zodiac called Arachne Rising. It's by an author written in the 70s. I'll let you know later how that reads. Violet says, Sylph, ooh. Angela says, Arachne. People are excited about words. That's a good thing. Yes. I'm not worried about the new astrology, though. Since I don't pay attention to the regular astrology much, except to notice that it's happening. And go like, okay, that's what's going on right now.
Yeah, I seem to be too far away from math to ever get into astrology well. I'm just like, not very good with it. Just seems to be natural to me at this point.
Well, I think I probably got turned off to it because all of my horoscopes that I've ever had done were so completely and totally wrong about who I was and what kind of a personality I had and what had happened to me. I figured it was, not applicable. Angela says, I love Arachne. She's lovely to work with, very good humored. Astrology is hard for me to understand. I know a bit here and there. Their math is mental abuse to humans. For me, yes. I think that's a very good definition of math for me, too. It makes my head hurt.
Mental abuse to humans. I like that.
Yep.
I'll remember that. I'll use that.
Yes, we will spread the word about the definition, the new definition of math. Violet thinks that's funny, too. Some people are good at it. Some people are not. I'm not. He's not. We're not. And that's okay. Darling Darlene says, love it. Yep. Yep. Pep says there's a lot of people for whom tropical Western astrology doesn't work at all. They check sidereal and voila. Heather says, have you ever met a shapeshifter? Well, we actually saw one once together, or we wouldn't have
Wait, what?
believed it was real.
That's our assumption, is that's what it was. But
Yeah, that's the only thing we can think of. It was local. We were just driving to the store down a street we go 1,000 times, and there was a guy riding a bicycle coming in our direction with wild gray hair all over the place.
Long beard.
And a long beard. And then as he got closer, he turned into a younger black-haired woman with a round face and no facial hair whatsoever, smoking. And
cigarette
then
hanging from her face, yeah.
drove by. And Ian says, that was weird. And I said, yeah, I thought that was an old man on a bike, and it turned into a woman smoking. He said, exactly. So we saw exactly the same thing.
It was a long-haired old guy, and it was a short-haired woman smoking.
Yeah, and it was sort of
short
dangled.
black hair kind of thing.
And she had a very round head.
Yep.
And I've tried to see if I could find any local legends about a shapeshifter. I actually met someone else who saw the same transition in the opposite direction. He saw the younger woman standing in front of her smoking, turned into the old man with the wild gray hair and the beard. And that was on a campus, local community college campus. It's the only other person I've met who saw that. So I don't know if it was, what do you call that?
Like a glamour?
Yeah, glamour. That's the word I was looking for. If it was a glamour or a true transition or not. But I don't know.
But it was pretty inexplicable, and we both saw the same thing, and that was the amazing part.
Yeah, if we'd been alone, we probably wouldn't have believed it happened. The fact that we were together and saw the same thing was like, okay, whatever that was, we both saw exactly the same thing, so it was something external. So Krista says, I loved your video recently on natural authority. Good, thank you. Natural authority is an important thing to understand. Aquarian says, I'm really trying to learn Vedic astrology, as much of it correlates with magic, planets, planes, and so much more. Vedic is 23 degrees behind Western. Very math, though. But thankfully, there's software. Yay for software.
My favorite solution to math, that's right.
That's right, software. Eric says, I've bought this book by Jeff Cullen called Liber Lithonia, a contemporary witchcraft and devotional tradition of Hecate, and wanted to know anyone ever read that book. I haven't started yet.
Not I.
Not I.
I'm not familiar with any of this stuff.
Aquarian says, sidereal is the same degree as Vedic. Eric says, sorry, just got back, didn't catch what was going on. That's okay. Not a bad question. Bap says, great story. Yes, about the shifting. Angela says, I know one Japanese shape-shifting sort of being, but it's not the same. It's about the no faces. Yeah, I figured it had to be a local kind of legend somehow, native. It was around the lakes, and there's a lot of spirit activity around the lakes. And a lot of undines that are there. Hannah says, do you have any ideas on what seeing lights could be? Sometimes just a pinprick, sometimes larger, usually white, but with a swirling undertone undertone color.
I don't have that at all.
It's not an eye condition that I've been checked.
I don't have that message.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Wait a minute. Looks like I got one up above. I missed Angela. They paint their faces to look like people and go see the person's friends, then scare them by wiping the face away. Ew. And then repainting to look like someone else. And then the person runs over to the new person and tells them what they saw. Then they do it again. Well, it sounds like a trickster. So to the lights, do you have any idea? I think it's energy, sometimes maybe fairies as well. But I see energy floating around as lights, and I also see it on people sometimes when I work on them. Like nerves seem to generate a light. If the nerve is being blocked or something, I'll be working on a client, and all of a sudden there'll be a big spark that'll pop out of them. And usually they're white and small, but sometimes I've seen one that was blue, and then I saw one that was like a bright white line that sort of like traveled along the nerve like a worm and disappeared as it went, sort of thing. So I think that it's energy. And when I was in first grade, that was what got me first in trouble, because I was looking out the window with the rest of the kindergartners. I guess I was first grade, not kindergarten, and and I saw all these lights on the horizon, like moving through the trees, and I pointed them out, and nobody saw them but me. So I'm thinking that's what it is. It's some form of energy manifestation, and some people can see them, and some people can't. Just like some people can hear in higher registers than other people, I imagine. So Angela says, in the story, I found this poor guy had them chasing him all day, disguised as different people. Never says why, but I wonder what he did. It does seem to be personal, kind of. Violet says, nope, on Hecate. Heather says, that's so interesting. Thanks for sharing. Bep says, any experience seeing whirlpool vortex while relaxing the attention against the blank background? I see that in the sky all the time. The first time I saw it that I recall was went for a hike up the Appalachian Mountains with my mom and sisters, and we got, and they're not tall mountains, but we got to the top and was looking out at a clear blue sky, and then I saw this kind of sort of like a mandala kind of thing that was moving inward like this, and it just kept going like this and to a point, and it was, the color was kind of a gray color against the blue sky, and it was very patterned. I mean, it was like a geometric shape or pattern, and I still see that from time to time. But now I'm past seeing that, and I think, and that's when I see the big figures in the sky, and I see the gray popcorn kind of thing I've talked about, where the blue sky looks like it's got gray clouds in it that aren't there. And then in that, once that happens, then I start to see other things.
Yeah, that's pretty much the way that happens to me. I get that gray, a lot of gray blankness, which often seems like it's swirling around to me at the time. Yeah.
Sophia says it sounds like all the mythical supernatural creatures aren't in the USA. Big surprise, we're not the center of the universe, huh? Corian says, is there a native tribe you study more than others for culture and stories? No, I've collected books and things from a lot of different tribal backgrounds, depending on where I've been and what I come across, and just interested in reading some. Supposedly we're part Cherokee in my family, although no one can find any actual genealogy to prove that. So I ended up collecting, like creation myths and things from other cultures, and Cherokee was one of them. Different kinds of creation myths and so forth. And I've always been interested in Aboriginal cultures anyway. So Hannah says, that's cool. It's happened since I was a kid. Sometimes it's almost like I see the color with my mind's eye, or just knew it even though it didn't appear that way. Thank you. You're welcome. Vanessa V says, do you know anything about the gene keys? They seem to have become pretty popular, but I don't understand how they are different from astrology. Nope, never heard of them. I guess we have things to look up. Aquarian says, I have found the applications to be very magical, spiritual, and mysterious. Bep says, exactly, easiest to see it in the sky. What is it? Any insight? Aquarian says, laugh out loud, Appalachian.
I just thought it was, it's like a transitional phase, not something you're really seeing. I always thought it was just a transitional phase to seeing something more interesting, which usually it has been for me. I get that grayness before I get something, if I'm going to get something, which I can't quite do at will like I'd like to.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually like a portal or anything like that we're seeing. I think it is a shift in the way your eyes are working.
Yeah, like a transition state in your consciousness,
right,
or something.
And you're changing over to a different set of muscles in your brain or something, your ability to perceive things. And yeah, it was startling when I saw it, but interesting, and it didn't seem to be scary. It was just startling because I'd never seen it before.
Yeah, usually if I can, when I want to see something, I try to get that first. And usually if I can't get that, then I can't get anywhere with my scrying. if I can get that, a lot of times then, not every time, but a lot of times I can then go into that and scry out whatever I've been trying to scry.
Angela says, I like the Greek creation myth where chaos was bored in their swirling place all by themselves and birthed Nyx, Erebus, Gaia, and Kronos. Well, yeah, the pagan creation myths are very similar in the sense that the goddess was alone by herself and couldn't see who she was, so she created a mirror which created the other. And then she saw her own reflection and started interacting with it, and that's how she gave birth to the world, all the worlds, and so forth. That's one of the creation myths in paganism I've heard. There's lots of different creation myths all over the place. Some of them are pretty funny.
I like chaos just getting bored. We need to do something.
There's nothing to do around here but swirl. Angela says, Nyx and Erebus, night and darkness, birthed either, and Hemeral light and dawn, and Gaia had many children, making the earth and their children and children's children all eventually built up the world little by little. Yep. And a lot of those are good explanations of like the creation of the universe and what happened, because, you know, from a physics and astronomy perspective, they are working with the same kind of ideas and so forth by looking farther and farther back into time to see how it actually came to be and what was going on and stuff. And I don't think that they're like I don't think one thing excludes the other. I don't think they're self-exclusory.
Right.
That they can both exist simultaneously and be different expressions of exactly the same reality. But ancient cultures had different words that they used to describe these things.
Well, of course, and they had different mental perspectives also, of course, because of their societal upbringing and things. I'm sure they thought in a substantially different way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things I was wondering about. If one of the things that makes me curious about learning another language is, would I be able to think differently if I had an expanded vocabulary of a different language or how they speak?
Good question.
Could I incorporate that in my mental conceptions, be more flexible?
So Angela says, we are all made of star stuff. We all have a little chaos in us. Well, we are literally made of star stuff. Without the death of stars, there'd be no planets. And without that, there'd be no bodies, and we wouldn't be around. So, yeah. It's not just a nice saying. It's accurately portrays existence as we know it. It's like, wow, we definitely have that. So, yep. It's an interesting existence. When I was little, I would be laying outside on the grass and I would be looking up at the sky and I'd be thinking about, like, how did we become? Who are we? What is out there? And how did it happen? And stuff like that. And my mother would come along and ask me what I was thinking about. And I'd tell her and she'd go like, oh, well, that's kind of deep. I'm like, doesn't everyone think like that? I'm like, I don't understand. But yeah. Angela says, thanks, Chaos. We love you. Hopefully we aren't all making you facepalm down here. And Krista says, you're welcome. Because she is Chaos. Bep says, talking about shapeshifters, maybe the turkey guy wasn't killed by a turkey after all. Yes, it was in disguise. It was something else. Yes, who knows what he did to deserve that, if he did anything to deserve that at all, or if it was just happenstance and really bad luck. Not being in the moment, not paying attention, putting a not quite dead turkey in your back seat. Remember those people that, what was it, there was that one comedy where they put a deer that they hit in the back seat and they thought it was dead and then it came alive and then it started kicking everybody. It was like
a Chris Farley thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was one of those.
Before he died, yeah.
Yep. Shay says, hello, Siofra,
Hi,
Ian,
Shay.
and all. Hi, Shay. Glad you could make it just before we leave. Nice to see your face, or your name, I guess, not your face. Because that doesn't look like a face. Angela says, I remember walking with my nephew when he was 2. He got all excited looking at the stars and grabbed me and told me, Auntie, look, the stars are home. They're with their family and they're so happy. That's adorable. Little Spider says, Angela, your comment about swirling chaos reminded me of a being I saw that had a black, cloudy, swirling face, took on the shape of someone I knew. But the face. Aquarian says, thank you for the time and energy you both put into this. I wish I could thank you in person, but this will have to do. I hope you have a good week. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your thanks.
And Joy said, thank TTFN, which is thank the something. Shay says, Shay's face. Glasses and a lips or mustache.
It's a disguised face.
It's a disguised face.
Yes.
Angela says, oh wow, that's amazing. Little spider web. Angela says, ta-ta, for now it means.
Ah, cool.
Oh, ta-ta for now. All right, thank you very much. There are so many of these.
Yep.
I know a bunch of them, but not all of them apparently. That one was new. All right, guys. Thank you. It was lovely to spend our Sunday afternoon with you all. And as usual, if you have any questions or anything, you can send me an email at chiefrasmagicalcove@gmail.com. Or you can put a comment on the video, and I do my best to answer all comments. And remember, if your comment doesn't show up, it's because I haven't seen it yet, and I have to approve them all. So there, just in case. And it's not personal. All right. Have yourselves a wonderful time, everybody.